Planning board meeting will come to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
John Hutzko.
Steve Caswell.
John Cutler. What about you?
I do it at the end.
Oh, no, you don't.
Bob Wilbarg is now
Wilbarg.
sitting in. Jason Perez. Michael O'Brien. If you would please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, Bob Wilbarg is being seated on behalf of Lori G., who is vacationing. So,
Where's Craig?
well, Craig is out. Yes, Craig is ill.
Yeah.
We have two upcoming meetings. We have March 3rd and March 17th. At the end of this meeting, we'll make a decision about the March 3rd meeting. Approval of meetings, October 21st, November 16th, December 16th. I think we'll waive those until Lori is back.
Right, exactly.
Okay. That's good. I was going to say, was there an issue? Okay. So the first item on the agenda is the Beekman Country Club, the amended site plan. Really what we're trying to do in today's discussion is talk about whether this constitutes a major change or a minor change. And again, we've had a lot of exchanges during the interim, so why don't I let you introduce some of the points you want to make, Mr. Katz, and then we'll wrap it up.
I would urge on the board that this is a minor change because the grass will be the same grass that exists there now. The only difference will be where the so-called greens are will be cut to a ½ inch instead of 1.5 inches. The approaches will be cut to 1 inch instead of 1.5 inches, and the remainder will all be as it is. We will dig 9 holes that will be 21 inches across and 6 or 8 inches deep, which I urge is minor. We will, in accordance with what the planning board indicated to us last month, put up a 6-foot page wire fence that would be unobtrusive but strong to make sure that there was no danger of children or balls going out into the roadway. And we have no plans for lights. We do recognize, and I appreciate the chairman calling it to our attention, that we will lose 6 additional parking spaces by moving the tent back. And I urge that because we never fill our parking lot except when we have the big parties and where we would be using the foot golf area for parking under those circumstances, that there's no danger of going onto the town roads. And we have pledged to you, as we did 30 years ago, that we would not go on town roads, and we haven't. And so I guess I urge that it's minor. It's an opportunity for us to bring something new and exciting in terms of golf, to bring people to the community, and we ask you to support us.
Okay. First of all, I apologize for mispronouncing your name earlier, so please accept my apology. Let's take some of those points. If there's not going to be any lighting, but what will the hours of operation be? When will you
Dawn to dusk.
Dawn to dusk, okay. So it'll be just moving.
We do not perceive that we would want lighting, and we understand that if we did, we'd have to come back to you, but that's not something that we visualize. It's hard enough for our staff to run the place from dawn to dusk.
The 6-foot wire fence, there was concern about how visible it would be, that people could injure themselves by not seeing it. What other structure is going to be with it, or how will it be highlighted so that people, don't inadvertently walk into it or run into it?
Page wire, it's not like a thin wire. It's I really don't think anybody could miss it if it's up. It's a good sturdy wire. It's intended to keep, we're typically used to keep cattle and animals in place, so it has to be sturdy. I think it would be visual, but also not obstruct the view and the look out onto our property, which we think would be a big positive to be able to have it seen.
Okay. Do you guys agree with that? I mean, are we going to look for some kind of additional structure or things that call out the fence?
It somewhat depends. I think we were asking for a detail, depending on like the posts you have, and if you have a rail in between the posts, that might help have it stand out a little better. And the material of the wire and how rough it gets, would depend on how much of a concern there might be for the visibility, or just if somebody ran into it, they just snagged their clothing on it, or worse.
If the board would prefer, we could like 3 feet up, a single rail across, so that can't miss that it's there. Respectfully, I don't think it's necessary, but if
Let me poll the board. What do you guys think?
Well, they're not, the kids aren't going to be running into the fence. They're going to
No,
be
sir.
kicking the ball.
yeah, and
then
we
they're gonna
deliberately
walk.
changed the holes at your suggestion, so they're never going at the wall. And also, it's a good 20, 30 feet from anywhere where the green is.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen the kind of fencing you're talking about. It's unobtrusive in the daytime, but it's clearly visible. And at night, if somebody's dumb enough to try and cross your golf course and run into it, I figure that's their problem.
If somebody did, we've had a little bit of a problem with vandalism with some youngster, I presume, who's gone to do wheelies on the golf course, and I would love him to tangle with the fence.
Okay, then.
Let it go. Let it go. Okay. What about the new parking plan? There was a request to look at the new parking plan and how that, if you ever did use the course as a parking lot, how that would be laid out. Is it just?
What we've always done is to, depending on how many people we expect, have somebody there to guide people and to show them how to park. And what we do is continue the lines. We park one right up on the old tee, which is concrete and sturdy. And as I reported to you last time, we would have steel plates over the holes so that there would be no danger of a car going into them. And we've always had somebody there to monitor the parking when we have a big party. You have to.
Okay. And then there was the movement of the tent, which I guess...
The movement of...
The movement of the tent, I'm sorry.
Yes.
The revised drawing showed that. So at this point, any comments from the board members before we poll the professionals?
It goes from 184 parking spaces to about 176 parking spaces, but I would urge that that is more than adequate for our regular operations. We never, because the cycling of golfers, you can't have that many on the golf course. And if we have a big outing like the state police, then we use the parking on the foot golf area. And it's...
So when you're using the tent for an event, is the golf course still open to the public?
Oh, absolutely.
So you could max out, how many cars would take up for just maxing out the golf range?
But the most you could have is 18. It's a mini course intended
No, I'm not talking
really-
about the mini car, I'm talking about the entire golf facility.
If somebody, when the people are playing foot golf, they're on the golf course and you can't have golfers on that 9.
No.
So, and the number of golfers or foot golfers for the facility would be the same. So that, in other words, if we were using the Taconic 9 for foot golf, you couldn't have golfers on there. They don't intermix.
I'm not talking about foot golf. I'm talking about if you have an event going on in the tent.
Yes.
And you also have the whole golf course open to the public, could you ever fill up all the parking?
I don't think we've ever had an event where we used the tent and the golf course in 2 separate functions. It's just never
Okay, well,
happened.
that's what I'm wondering.
Okay.
That's why I asked, is it still open to the public where they can come and play golf
Yeah,
when you have an event going on?
when we do not foresee a situation where we'd have a a party in the tent. When we had golfers there, the tent has always been used for outings.
I understand, but you're going to leave it up pretty much the whole summer now, so I would assume you're probably going to use it for maybe other events, like weddings or something else.
We
other
might
than
try
golf.
Friday night barbecues, yes.
Yeah.
But we don't have golfers on the course then.
All right.
But to have,
Can we just leave it that if there was ever a potential that you would have overflow parking, that the foot golf would be closed and it would be used as an auxiliary
absolutely,
lot?
sir, absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Any other comments from the board? Professionals, by the way, as we go through, if get your opinions, extra credit for using the word minor or major as you talk. So,
I'm going to try not to think about that. Just to follow up on the shifting of the tent 20 feet to the west, was there, to understand the intent of that?
The intent was that my green superintendent said, Philip, that's never where we put the tent, because you want to have people be able to walk out on the macadam if it happens to be raining rather than on the grass. That was an error on my part. I apologize.
And then I would presume that it leaves a few spaces to the east side of the tent, a few parking spaces.
We lose 6 spaces.
And you wouldn't utilize those, even though they're outside the tent area, but to the east?
Oh, the ones, no,
Okay, but no, I think that's good.
Oh,
I
if
don't
there
think
were
you'd
no,
want to use them
I stand corrected. If there's no outing, of course we'd use them.
if there was no outing.
But if there was no outing, we wouldn't need them. But, you know,
It makes the tent and those few spaces that are left, it just makes access difficult into, to park there and to back out of
we
there.
assume we lost the spaces.
Okay. In regard to the plates over the holes, just a comment that maybe a 24-inch plate over a 21-inch hole might be cutting it a little thin, so maybe.
I spoke to, I think, you about it, and I said we were perfectly happy to increase them to whatever you think is appropriate, 26, 28 inches.
Okay.
It's not a major issue.
What's the actual hole constructed of? Is there like a ring inside the hole? or-
Yes.
So maybe if they could put some stoppers in the plate to keep the plate from
From
shifting.
shifting.
As
You-
long
you
as
might
it-
We assume we would have spikes in them so
Right.
that it wouldn't
Okay,
shift.
all right.
I would assume you're highly incented to keep a car tire from going in one.
I sure am, yeah. Yeah. No, we know that our insurance rates depend on claims. We're proud to say that in the last 5 years, we have had 1 claim. And that our insurance company agrees is an unwarranted claim, and we're defending against it. I mean, we work very hard at making a safe, good operation and being a credit to the community.
Okay.
And the last thing I have, and I think you answered most of it from Mike's question, but in terms of when the foot golf area is going to be used for overflow parking, I understand how you're going to get them in there and you're going to have someone directing up where they're going to park, but where do they actually access that area from? The main parking area?
May I, the way we've always done it before is to come right in there.
So you knock out a few of those spaces and you bring.
Well, 1 or 2 spaces and then just come in. And actually, I have to think about it, but that's the way we've always done it, is to go in there. Or we've gone in on this end and just come out on, I think that's the way they've done it, because they come out at the end of the parking lot, onto the grass and then in, is the way they've done it. They don't want to give up the parking. And also people park there so quickly, so that we've always brought them down to the edge of where the fence is. And then drive.
That makes sense.
I don't know, can I hold up a map and show you what we were saying?
I think it's.
By the road.
We come down in this way and then, and it works out, and then one line goes right on top of the old.
The old tee boxes.
Tee box, which is concrete, and it's fine, and then we skip and take 2 lines.
Beautiful. Brendan, any other questions?
Nope, I just think maybe as part of, of this plan, then there could be a little bit of a narrative about how that parking is going to be configured and accessed and included as part of that approval.
And I would recommend that the resolution of approval or that narrative also describe the restrictions that will be on the use of the foot golf course during special events. Because obviously you don't want you don't want people parking there during special, I mean, you don't want people playing foot golf during special events.
Okay,
You were talking about the foot golf area in the
Yes,
front. yeah.
right, when you're going to have overflow
Yeah.
parking.
No problem on that. no.
Brendan, major or minor?
I tend to concur that it's minor.
I'd like to just see, if possible, like either a picture or something of whatever the fence is going to look like. I think that's, if you could just attach something that shows what the fence is actually going to look like.
It's just straight page wire, which is standard manufactured.
But are there
6 feet.
posts like every 6
And-
feet, or how often do you put posts? And I just want to get an
Well, there'll
understanding.
be obviously posts, whatever it would take to make it sufficiently sturdy, but everything we've ever built there has been safe and sturdy, I think, and whether 10 feet or 12 feet or 15 feet, it would be something that would not be an embarrassment to us. It'll be safe, it'll be strong.
And but Michelle's point, just, a little something on that. Anything else, Michelle?
That's it.
Major or minor in your mind?
I think these are minor changes, as long as we get the details and they're written down, so that,
Okay.
the reason I'm asking for that is
Yep.
because we need something to enforce in the event that something goes awry there. We need to have the documentation.
Okay. Joe?
I think Mr. Schatz has responded to the prior comments fairly well and clarified things, but if he can just work to get a few of these details buttoned down for us and put it on the plan, that way it's able to be enforced and everybody's on the same page with what they're talking about. So I'd say with all that, it's a fairly minor change.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you. Scott?
Just a couple brief comments. I know in past projects, fencing, railing seems to always become like an issue after the fact, not knowing exactly what it's going to look like. So I agree with Michelle, it should be clear. I think, although safety is important, I think aesthetically it should be appealing out on Beekman Road. So I just agree with Michelle that maybe you should just take a look. at
Could
the
I
fencing.
ask the planning board, since I get a sense that you're looking favorably on this, could we make the resolution that the fencing shall be satisfactory to the town engineer?
Or plan. I'm satisfied with Michelle.
Or, I mean, wherever, but so that I don't have to come back and I know that we can advertise.
We're getting there. We're getting there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's just been my experience. And then the only other thing would be, in the event that the 6-foot height doesn't work, that there be some kind of mechanism to monitor it, and if need be extended, that you would be agreeable to that, and there'd be some kind of mechanism.
What, are we gonna start getting back into the neighbors that wanted that whole big fence down in the first place? To the driving range?
Well, I just
But that's
think-
on the end.
I think
I
we're-
understand, but if we start raising that fence back up again,
I think 6 foot's kind of an arbitrary number.
Sure, yeah.
Right now. It may work fine,
And it
and we
may-
may
yeah.
find out that it's not. And I think everybody should just be aware that if it doesn't work, we need to revisit it.
Okay.
okay,
just have
so
a
it would come
mechanism.
back to us.
And I don't know whether
It's
this
not
fence
just come
can be
back to the town
extended, or it might
engineer
be a
and say,
net
all
above
right,
it, but,
make it a 10-foot high.
if it's warranted, it should be revisited.
Okay.
Can I
Anything else?
Can I
That's it.
respond to that?
And
What-
Sure.
Just, Scott, when we built the fence for the driving range, it wasn't safe. We raised it 25 feet.
Right.
It wasn't safe. I spent $250,000
Right.
to move it.
Right.
We are interested in safety.
And I
We
respect
do
that,
care.
but on the same token, once we give you this approval, you may not be the owner of this golf course forever, and, whatever we agree on tonight's going to apply to whoever that might be. So I have no doubt your integrity, but this carries with the property, so.
Okay.
Mine.
May I make a suggestion? Why doesn't Scott and Michelle write the requirements of the fence as part of the resolution? And it's acceptable to you, whatever they write? And as long as it's not unreasonable, you'd review it first, and then everybody...
Well, I would
would
agree,
have
I
it.
would suggest we do it in unison.
Yeah.
Okay, I just thought if you wrote
Okay.
it first and you said, okay.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Anything else?
That's it.
Tom, any?
Minor.
Minor. Thank you. Love that guy. Love that guy. John?
It's a minor project.
Steve?
Yeah, I see it as a minor project.
John?
I would agree.
Minor.
Minor.
Okay. I think it's pretty much unanimous that this is minor, so why don't we do the following? Tom, could we get a resolution that we agree that this is a minor change, and we just have a...
Well, why don't you just stay on the record now, and then we can just put it into writing based on what you say in the record.
Okay.
Okay, so the resolution would probably be something to the effect that the board acknowledges this application to be a minor modification to the site plan that exists for a golf course, and that the 9-hole foot golf would be permitted in the front grass area. It would have 9 holes, each of which would have a cover, safety cover placed on at night. That there would be a fence that we're agreeing to would be beginning at 6 feet high, subject to the aesthetic review of the town planner. And if there's a large event scheduled at the site, then for parking purposes, the foot golf part would be closed for that time period. And whatever other.
That was, you hit them all.
Did I? Okay.
So we have a motion.
So moved.
Would someone make it?
Yeah, I was
Second?
gonna say.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
I'm sorry? Okay. Your
Thank you,
motion is carried.
gentlemen. Thank you for
very
your
much,
service.
Mr. Jatz.
The monitoring of the
I seconded it.
Best of luck.
John, I
Thank you very much.
put the amendment.
No.
He
A
proposed.
flurry of enthusiasm.
Doesn't matter.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Do you need a moment, or can we get started with the next item on the agenda? Is Stewart's Ice Cream. We're here for a discussion and potential to schedule a public hearing. Chuck, do you want to open, or do we want to get a readout on, I mean, the main thing that was kind of missing here was any kind of word from the DOT about their site visit. We got a lot of materials in the interim.
Yeah, no, I think Chuck should give a little overview of
Okay. You want to, okay,
the plan since.
stop.
Just take one. How come it took you 20 minutes?
I'd like to roll them up and hit them.
You're anxious to get it.
This, Mr. Hudson, different, feeling you need teamwork.
Two of them. How'd you get to know?
Okay, this appears to be no different. Okay.
I can't wait to go to my first foot golf fundraiser. What we have before us is the plan that we'll be forwarding going forward. We had some technical aspects about the road alignment, and that was reviewed by HVEA, and I'm sure Brendan will go through some of those comments as staff goes through their technical aspects. We have a 3,975 square foot building with 4 pumps. As you remember, we had originally proposed 5. The trip generation from the 5th and the potential commercial development, which we've since abandoned, the additional commercial, not the Stewart shop, puts us into the realm of reasonable trip generation from the traffic study. We will have one full access driveway to the site, which will be on the western portion of the site. That will be approximately 215 feet from the road that will be installed. The road alignment in comparison to the alignment for the salon across the street, I'm unsure of how large their curb cut is on that side, but if they did a standard 30-foot curb cut, it would be approximately 60 feet to the radii of the eastern radii of the road. With the configuration that you see before us in difference to the as-of-right presentation that's on the back side of the sheet that's handed out, the back of the building is abutting the neighboring properties. When we have a backup building, there's certain things we can't do. Because that kicks the delivery to the western side of the store, we can't put mechanicals on that side. However, we will provide a 8-foot vinyl fence on our side of what we think is a substantially landscaped buffer between us and the neighbors. Because of the iteration that this project has gone through, we don't have a full landscaping plan, truck routing. Obviously, those will have to be delivered, and we understand that aspects of that will include fire truck routing through the road and different types of movements. But we do understand some sensitivity to the neighbor, and will accommodate that. Our equipment, we pretty much have only 4 mechanical units. 2 are heating and cooling barred units. They're essentially air exchangers. Those cannot be brought inside. And similarly, the compressor for the cooler and the freezer. Those are ground-mounted units. We think that we will provide decibel readings, theoretical decibel readings, and we can provide them in practice. But placing those on the roof become more problematic for the neighbors, and with the hip roof does become a problematic installation.
Well, there is a town code on noise levels off the property. Will you meet them?
I'm familiar with what the town code is, but I think that between the landscaping, the fencing, sound blankets if we need it, then
So you don't know?
I don't know, but I mean, before our approval, we'll have to, I mean, but by the time we return for the public hearing, those will be placed on a plan and shown.
I will.
One of the key points, Chuck, is going to be what else goes outside the building. I mean, I think, first of all, it's a very good drawing. I mean, let's highlight the fact that there is, it stays within the business zoning, and you don't cross over into the residential.
Correct.
And again, you have reduced, the pumps, which I'm glad to hear that that's acceptable to stewards. But then the key question becomes, are there other things, like, for example, on the Lake Walton store, you've recently put a freezer extension on? I mean, is there going to be 8 of those?
Right. So with the Lake Walton store, that was an existing, I think, roughly 1,800 square foot building that we tried to offer some of the similar services that we provide in the 3975 building. With the 3975 building, no, those features stay inside. So you won't see an external cooler or freezer. So the building will be final, with the exception of the 4 pieces of mechanical equipment and the electric box.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I interrupted, please. Or,
Again, I would reiterate, I've been in back of Stewart's, and that's typically where you have all the air conditioning and cooling units. And they're fairly noisy. That's why I'm curious, if you look up the town code for noise, do you stand a shot at meeting?
Well, he can't get approval if he doesn't meet the code.
Well, if he doesn't know what it is, how can
Well,
he
I
know he
understand,
needs
but
it?
I mean, I'm just saying
Well,
that whether he decides it's good or bad, he
Okay.
still has to meet
I
it.
was
You
just-
can't give any approval
Got it.
without it, so.
Got it.
But this is, right, and this is also, I mean, the big consideration for this meeting was stemming from the traffic study, how we orient the building that incorporates the road.
Right, but when you reorient the building and things, it changes the noise levels and the way things go.
got it, got
Yeah.
it.
Okay? Well, I just-
Okay, so, again, some of the other highlights, the fact that on Hook Cross Road, you will close the western end of that
Correct.
and leave the eastern end open, but now provide a drive-through.
Well, that's not his, they're proposing that would be a town decision at some point.
Is the town in favor of
Okay.
closing that, or?
No, the western portion is staying open.
Yeah,
The
no,
eastern
no, it's
portion.
the other way.
I'm sorry,
It's the other way.
eastern, I'm sorry, I
Eastern.
said western, eastern. Thank
But in
you.
any event, whichever portion it is, that would be a separate process. He's just showing that, but that's not.
Okay.
Well, is the project stipulated on that closing, or?
Well, all has to be decided. But I mean, probably in the secret process, that question would have to be posed to the town
the town,
board,
all right.
and the highway superintendent has to weigh in on it too. So.
Okay. Chuck, anything else you want to bring to, go down the?
I mean, obviously, I'll answer any questions. I think that, I mean, we've gone through a number of iterations of seeing it. I think that this is going forward. We do acknowledge that we will need the 100-foot setback variance for the gas canopy from the property line of 52.
Okay. Right off the bat, while there is, no longer a need for variance regarding putting the store into the residential, you still know you need a variance for putting the pumps that close to 52.
Yeah, that's what I do acknowledge that
So
there's...
that, and I think that's the only one, right?
Yeah. Yes. I believe
The only
so.
variance that we're aware of, okay. So let me poll the professionals and get their input on.
Well, the variance actually for the canopy, not for the pumps, right? It's the canopy.
Well, the canopy.
The canopy.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but I'm sorry, yes, the
No,
pump
but I mean,
structure.
it encroaches, right, it needs to...
Thank you, thank you. Brendan, why don't we start with you in terms of your inputs on?
Sure, just a couple things. We did preliminarily meet with the DOT permit engineer, who, actually, he was in favor of closing the eastern leg if this realignment happens with this project. They brought up a couple of concerns of the adjoining property access and the access to the property across the street. They wanted to look at that a little bit closer. The DOT reviews and approvals are kind of like a multi-tiered thing. So once the lead agency is declared, it'll force their hand to do a formal review and submit any comments that they have. But they were given a copy of this plan. They did bring it back to the regional office. I think Chuck pretty much covered all the points of the traffic. The traffic study is being revised. It'll be submitted to DOT as soon as it's revised in the next number of days. But it does provide for a reasonable and acceptable level of service at both the access drive and the new realigned road in light of the reduction of pumps and the site-generated traffic. So, and that sort of balances everything out pretty well. I think that's pretty much what I had for my end.
Okay.
I think Chuck covered everything else.
Good stuff. I want to emphasize, it does improve the overall, this is the optimal design for avoiding F intersections.
Yeah, it doesn't produce any failing levels of service for any of the connections to 52.
That's assuming with the eastern leg closed?
That's assuming with the eastern leg closed. And it also assumes a small shift of some traffic that currently uses the western leg to be utilizing this leg.
Okay.
Okay, like a 25%.
I think it is a very good design in terms of what given to work with, so thank you both. Michelle?
Yes.
Thank you, Brendan.
I'm just sort of looking at everything right now, so I have to actually go back and measure because I don't have my scale with me, so I'll be able to answer to make sure that there's no other variances or any other bulk and requirements that may be exceeded by this. So I'm not going to answer that until I have a chance to really look at it.
Okay.
But the seeker review has to be commenced, so one of the things that you would have to do is declare yourself to be lead agency. And as far as Robert's discussion about the noise, certainly that would be addressed during the seeker review. They would have to address any noise, lighting, any issues that could potentially cause a significant adverse impact.
I was going to declare our intention to be lead at the end.
That's fine, that's fine. I just
I don't
wanted
have
to
to
make
do
sure
that at the beginning, do I?
No.
I could hear all the latest
That'd
and
be at the
greatest.
end.
Okay. I need my attorney keeping me.
No, I'll wait for Mr., I have a question for Mr. Wood, but I'll wait for him to.
Please.
I guess one of the questions regarding seeker would be, with a plan that, do we have to identify the town as an involved agency on the seeker form?
Right, the town board, the highway superintendent, the zoning board of appeals, because it has to be coordinated review, the planning board, and then the other agencies, DOT, DOH.
I can help you identify the agencies that you will
No,
need to.
yeah, it's just that with the, I guess with the only thing that kicks the town board in, because that was the one that would have went
Well, the highway superintendent board had kicked in
for
by
the road and the
issue.
closure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Joe?
And just on that point, this alignment doesn't necessitate the closure of the eastern leg, right? But it just makes sense to do that from a safety standpoint.
Right. It doesn't necessitate it, but it, it certainly, to have both connections, it would be probably more practical just to have the one.
Okay.
A much better approach alignment to 52.
I know there were 2 accidents, from what I understand, just within the last week or 2 at that intersection.
On Chuck's plan, one of the plans it is showing an area for the septic field, but it isn't shown on what I guess is the preferred version, so I don't know if you have an idea of where the septic might go for that.
Yeah, it'll go in approximately the same area to the southeast portion of the proposed road, in between the proposed road and the existing road.
Okay. So would that...
On the plan that you have before you is a 100-foot line from the creek. Because it's an open water source, we have to maintain 100 feet per DEC standards, and we will show a 50% expansion area and maintain the 100-foot separation.
So that would be on a different parcel? Would one being on a different parcel from the sewer?
Well, it would be our intention to subdivide and create one, I mean, I guess we would own all parcels separated by a town road.
Well, the road, it just becomes a road, yeah, divided in two.
Right, so if the septic goes here, is what you're saying, it's on a separate parcel.
The health department issue.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Chuck, could you just point on the map where you're talking about?
And they'd have to have an
Okay,
easement.
thank you.
They'd have to have an easement across the road there.
I mean, in a standard, or what we normally do when we require more than one standard is we subdivide and assemble into one parcel with the mentality that the municipality prefer the owner to have limited numbers of parcels because one parcel would essentially be vacant. So when we did that, I mean, a road can divide one parcel. You could have a parcel that's on 2 sides of a road.
Joe, what else?
Yeah, I guess similar, well, Chuck mentioned the stream, there's also a floodplain that goes with the stream. For this road to connect to 52, they'd have to have a culvert there, so we would need to see the analysis for the sizing of that culvert, looking at the floodplain in that area. And then the stormwater, looks like there'll be, 1 acre, maybe 2 acres of disturbance, so you'll have your stormwater pollution prevention plan.
Yeah, and some of that is existing pavement, and some of it is existing building. So we'll probably be in the area of the SWIP, and try and take as much credit for existing, impermeable surface.
Yeah, the SWIP, I mean, usually the SWIP is projected, at least preliminarily, on one of the first plans. It's understood until you get your site work or your layout nailed down. You can't really refine all your calculations, but we would look for at least a preliminary SWIP, I think, with the next submittal.
Okay, what else?
I guess the layout of this particular building doesn't allow the full circulation, but it sounds like he's got ways to overcome that. I mean, they probably come across that a lot on several other projects. I know they'd rather have the full circulation, but you can't always do that, so.
Okay. Anything else? Chuck, any comments?
The gas can will act as essentially a drive around. We do provide 30 feet from behind the parking spaces on the western side. Those probably be mostly employee parking anyhow. One of the things is one of the constants in Stewart's design is approximately 30 feet behind parking spaces to the gas canopy, because any of our internal conflicts occur when someone's backing out of a parking spot and someone's pulling away from a pump. So those are just kind of standard dimensions that we utilize to circulate people around their lots.
Okay. Joe, thank you. Scott,
I just want to reconfirm that your intention is to bring the water line along or through the new right-of-way to the intersection of Fishkill Hook Road. Does that still stand?
It was not our intention to do that. It was our intention to tap into the water line for our water source. However, the benefit we think that we're providing with the road was I didn't think that a water line was part of it.
I'm sorry, where are you asking the pipe be brought?
No, in previous iterations, it was discussed when this road came through that the water line would be extended to Fishkill Hook Road for future extension by the town. And that's why I wanted to reconfirm, because I know we've had a couple of iterations here. That's why I asked the question.
You're asking, or?
It's a question.
It's a question. So that is not your intention to bring the water line across the property?
No, it's also my understanding that there's not a water district for that area.
Your
Not
property
yet.
included.
Not yet, I think is the word.
So is that also a town board?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Duly noted. Scott, anything else?
That's it.
Tom, any?
I have nothing.
Okay, thank you, sir. Board members, just going down, comments, questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Bob.
I really wonder why abandoning that roadway is superior except to drive traffic directly in front of the Stewarts. That's more like a merge intersection, which is what they use on all the highways. The visibility is quite good looking, especially at traffic coming in where you're trying to merge into. I don't see where it would improve accidentness, if that's even a word, at all. And I don't see where it's an improvement. I don't see why, I would rather see the road stay where it is than you move the water line across, personally.
Okay, actually, I thought our professionals worked to get this, that this was really at the board's request. So duly noted, I mean, I guess further discussion, I mean.
That's it,
Okay.
my opinion.
Jason? Okay. So a couple items of business. Any other closing comments you want to make?
No, I mean, obviously, the water line, we can evaluate bringing that forward. I think that we would just have to, again, a mechanism for doing such.
Okay. So at this point, then, I guess I just make a motion to declare ourselves as the lead agency.
Circulate for lead agency.
We circulate for lead agency.
Because you have to, the board has to send out a notice to all the possible agencies that would be involved, indicating that you feel it would be appropriate for your board to coordinate the environmental review. And they have 30 days to either say, yes, we agree, do nothing, or object.
Okay, yeah.
And I thought you were also going to refer to the ZBA.
Well, I was going to recount.
Oh, you're going to do that.
Okay, but first items first. So do I have a motion for us to circulate for lead agency? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so, okay.
Brennan, if the state comes back and, say the town board doesn't want to close the east side, and the state comes back and says we don't want all those entrances, then what happens?
You have a revised plan, just like any other project.
Well, they haven't. The other side isn't as of right,
Could be
right?
that, or-
They could build that tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm just saying, we know, I guess
Yeah.
we're circulating, so we're going to
We're
find out.
circulating,
find
get
out.
DOT to formally
Gonna find
start
out.
the
But I
comment.
mean, I think we should definitely get, direction from the town on whether they're in favor of closing this or not.
That's why we're adding them into the process.
All right.
Okay.
I just don't want to wait till the end. I'd like an answer up front.
The thing is, yes,
That makes two of us.
Yeah,
if I could comment,
you could say Phillips Road.
the plan as of right also has to meet, I believe, the noise regulations.
Yes.
So even though it's an as of right build, you would still have to.
You still have to comply.
Yeah, I would have to comply with all, I would have to comply with all of the code
Right,
specifications.
normally says you could just do it.
Right.
Sort of as of right.
Still has to come here and get your okay.
Right, okay. Then the last item is, again, referral to the zoning board regarding the canopy.
Now, will that interpretation from Michelle come
Yeah, no,
via?
I just was, because the scale is off here, and I know that's a reduced scale, so I just wanted to make sure that whatever it is, that everything else was still
Well, for any, why don't you just make it broad and refer it to the zoning board? We know that
That's the only reason.
right now we're assuming there's only one needed to be considered for the canopy, but in case there are any others, they would.
Okay, so do I make a motion for that? Do I have a motion to refer the applicant to the zoning board for at least the canopy and others that might develop for?
So moved. Second?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. I believe that's it. Any other going once, going twice? Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, too.
Thanks. Good job. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Muse. Could somebody give a yell out into the lobby?
They're not the ones we
I'm sorry. Yes, there is a change in tonight's agenda. I should note that the Hunter's Ridge withdrew, so
deferred. I will not withdraw. Yes, you did. Thank you so much. I bet you will.
okay.
Could I add one thing for the record?
No. Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. We're here tonight to discuss a couple of alternative layouts. At our last meeting, we discussed with the board looking at a couple alternatives to the layout of the buildings, recognizing the constraints of the parcel itself. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Jeff, and he can explain what he's done. Thanks.
Good evening, Jeff Cantelmo from Insight Engineering, Surveying and Landscape Architecture. I'm here with my associate Eric Schlobaum, as well as Ken and Sean Carney. As the board will recall, at the last meeting, we presented our layout, which is up here on the screen. We had taken our driveway off of the wastewater treatment plant's driveway, brought it up to a point where we would break off of a future connection and come into the community. We had the two multifamily buildings toward the front of the project with some green space, and then it necked down to a single driveway, call it, with parking off of it, which fed the townhomes. We were basically asked at the last meeting to address a couple layout issues. One was, we said we would take a look at a driveway connection which would come out to the southerly driveway serving the town hall parking lot. In addition, we were asked to take a look at two internal layout alternatives. One, where we would increase some green space toward the rear of the property where we had no internal green space in the parking. And then a second alternative where at the terminus of our driveway, we would place a series of townhomes kind of perpendicular to that driveway. So we did present and submit to the board two copies, and Eric, if you could pull up the first one. This is alternative one, and this is the alternative where, again, we relocated our driveway to come off across from Town Hall's entrance, again, with the ability for a future connection back through if the other development of the Cannon property were to take place in a future phase. We come up into our development, again, we have the multifamilies toward the front, the townhomes to the rear, and we've got a loop configuration with our parking off of it so that we have a continuous green space through the center of the parcel. Now, this particular
alignment does require us to relocate the force main. I think we had explained to the board at the last meeting that we have constraints basically on all sides. We have a DEC wetland down here just within the floodplain. We have a DEC wetland line, a 100-foot control zone, which runs along here. Then to the south, we have the wastewater treatment plant, a 200-foot setback requirement by the DEC to residential structures. And then to the north, we have the property line as it's sought to be established by the town. And to the front, we've got obviously Route 52, which has a very wide right-of-way line based probably on a historic relocation of the road or something. So with those constraints, the last constraint is actually the force main, which runs along the top of the embankment and just outside the 100-foot control zone of the DEC wetland. So again, with this layout, right in this back corner, we've broadened the green space, we've moved units to the south, and what that's done is that's necessitated the relocation of about 300 feet of that force main, which obviously will come with a cost and a fair amount of logistics. Now, as we go to the next alternative, Eric, if you please, alternative 2, what we've done is we've taken that last row of townhomes as requested, we made it perpendicular to the access of the parking and driveway, and we've been able to, again, maintain a similar green space through the center of the parking area, same relocated driveway, same basic arrangement of multifamily and townhomes. But this particular layout necessitates even more relocation of the force main, starting from back in this corner along here, and then moving to the east to a point where we get back on it here. Now, a further complication with this layout is the relocated force main ends up in the DEC wetland control area in this corner right here. This curved line is the DEC control area, and the force main's out here. This requires relocation over 500 feet of that force main. We see this particular layout as problematic, both from a wetland permitting standpoint and also, construction standpoint associated with the relocation of the force main.
Tom, do we have to allow 89 units as a planning board?
Well, obviously, it's all subject to secret review, so if you have mitigation issues, you have mitigation issues.
Well, I mean, all of this, because you have to...
The stipulation of settlement...
well, that's what I'm saying. Are we forced
let me put it this way, I think, be very frank. We have a stipulation of settlement that says that if certain things happen by a certain date, the lawsuits go away. So one is if a development of 88 units plus the caretaker's unit is approved within a certain time frame, then the litigations are discontinued, we get general releases, and it's finished. If perchance that did not happen, then the lawsuits would resume, the Article 78 against the Joe's Mother's Road denial and the claims under the Fair Housing Act.
We're tied into 89.
Well,
I'm just saying, we're maximizing the entire area. I mean, we can't do any other alternative unless you've got a...
Well, you have three
reconstruction of this force main, right?
We are looking at the alternatives. I mean,
Yeah, our
by the way, Tom, what is the date that this...
Well, the contemplated date is June. Now, obviously, if we're moving in good faith and we're close and we need a little more time, two ways possible extensions have with the consent of the other parties or based on Judge Zambelli, who's been assigned to it, the supervising judge can grant an extension.
June?
It was envisioned be June 1st and meetings in June.
Okay. So there was another question?
Yes, my question is just the opposite. It seems to me, I took a rough cut of the property, looking at the layouts that are possible. Why are we limiting it to 89 units? Why can't we add more senior housing in there?
That's beyond the scope. This is
not senior housing.
If you want senior housing, that's a whole nother process.
Right, this is not a senior housing
Correct, yeah. Okay, thanks. Okay.
And and anyone who's a senior can live here.
Tom, one of the things that
But I'll
came
get
up
out.
during the preliminary exchanges
I'm
on
sorry.
this were, are there any other points that you want to educate us on regarding the legal issues?
No, I think I answered Jason's questions.
I think you did
I'd be
too,
happy
but
to
I
go
mean-
through it, but I mean, what this is basically, is that as the board knows, there was a vote of the town board that turned down the special permit on the development that Mr. Carney proposed at Joe's Mother's Road. For whatever reason, it was a unanimous vote of the town board to deny it. Shortly thereafter, and I'm not disparaging the applicant, he has every right to pursue legal remedies, he filed an Article 78 proceeding against the town, which is a request for a judge to review the actions of the town board to see if they were substantiated by the evidence before us. Additionally, the property owner, which was Hopewell Village Green, filed a notice of claim to bring a federal action against the zoning ordinance of the town of East Fishkill, alleging that there are deficiencies in the zoning ordinance that fails to keep it in compliance with federal mandates and court decisions. And additionally, Abilities First filed a notice of their intent to proceed with a federal lawsuit under the Fair Housing Act and Abilities and the Americans with Disability Act, etc. So in any event, the town board, faced with that, after consultation with the town's liability insurance carrier, we entered into negotiation, and also picking up on a theme that was brought up at some of the public hearings. It's a great project, but why not a different parcel, different site? And several speakers at the town board public hearing mentioned the property across the street that had been acquired by the town. So we did have discussions with the applicant. We were able to reach an agreement. We had an informal appraisal of the property. We know what the value is. So it was put together a stipulation that frames it that if a workforce housing, the workforce housing proposal is before the board, is approved, and it has 88 units and is approved by June, then that would mandate the discontinuance of those 3 lawsuits that I described to you in general releases. If it is not, then it allows everybody to resume where they were in the litigation and to go forward with the litigation. So it's not an agreement that says, yes, you must, but if you don't, there are consequences. The legislative body of the town board, since they were the defendants, the respondent, the corporation down, they unanimously agreed to authorize me to sign the stipulation that was before them. It was signed by the other side, it was filed with the court, and as I said, it was assigned to Justice Zambelli as the supervising judge for it.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Any other questions from people about the legal actions?
But you said if we're acting in good faith and trying to get this done in a reasonable amount of time, let's say by
Correct.
June, it's sort of an open-ended thing, then they may, if they, for some reason we can't come to a 100% agreement, but we're all on the right path going that way.
Well, anytime you have an agreement, the parties to it can modify times.
All right.
Part of the reason for the timeline, I don't think it was that the plaintiffs, the way it was explained to me by counsel for the plaintiff, it's not that they want to be arbitrary, but as we know, there are certain tax credit applications that are pending, and to keep that time frame and to keep the project in the round that it was in, that's where the timetable came from. So that's the driving force behind it, because obviously if the housing people in Albany thought that this was going to go on forever, they would probably knock it out and it wouldn't be in this round. So.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the legal?
I don't have a question with legal. I just want to know if we were forced into 89 units.
I think you heard that. It is the proposal on the table.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
All
that's
right,
been
so
agreed to.
if we
Now
want
it's
to
up
go
to us
with
to
one of
decide
these other
if-
alternatives and they have to go and move that force main.
Yeah, that's in the agreement.
That's fine.
That's contemplated, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Ken, did you want to make a couple comments?
I do. The townhouses, the inclusion of the townhouses, take up more room. They do, as opposed to a series of, if we added another 2 or 3 multifamily buildings. As I've stated with the previous application and with this application, based on my experience, I feel very strongly that the inclusion of the townhomes is important, very important for long-term management and long-term success of the development, not only the first year, 15 years, 20 years from now. This is not unlike other developments we've done where you're really dealing with a larger parcel that has some environmental constraints. We did a development up in the town of Poughkeepsie that had 20 acres. There were constraints, wetlands and streams, and the bulk of the development was really on 3.5 to 4 acres. And similar down in Somers as well. We constructed 150 units in probably about 8 to 9 usable acres. So it's not unusual in our business. I think from my standpoint and my experience, it's a very manageable development, and although on paper it may look one way, again, I think some of it is attributed to the inclusion of the townhomes, which I feel are very important.
Ken, do you think that this meets the memo that came from the county requesting more of a common space arrangement? I mean, I assume you guys saw that memo.
Yeah,
It was
we
to
did.
you.
Yep. Yeah, we actually...
Is this your response to it? Or
Well, it's actually interesting. They came up with the same comment that your board came up with relative to opening up the green space on both alternatives. And yes, we believe that either alternative 1 or 2, Eric, can you put 1 back up? The problem, quite frankly, we have with alternative 2 is we're not sure. I'd go beyond that. I would think that the force main relocation into the wetland buffer, the DEC, is a non-starter with the DEC. And again, you know, we're not opposed to the inclusion of the green space. We think it's a good addition to the project. We think it was a good comment from the planning board. That's obvious in that it was also echoed by Dutchess County Planning. So we're not opposed to the relocation of the force main, but would not suggest or be desirous to pursue the relocation of the force main in the DEC wetland buffer. And that's why, to us right now, alternative 1 is the one which we do think, you know, meets the concerns of the board and the county relative to the green space and comes up with what we believe is a permittable project and one where the construction costs associated with the relocation and other improvements is doable.
Okay. And I notice you guys really are really eager to get your own ingress and egress. But I also notice, you know, I have to believe there's going to be more of a cut. When I look up across the street at the berm, I mean, you guys are going to have to do a pretty good cut, and I don't think that's shown on these diagrams.
Well,
right?
we have topographic mapping, and we have submitted a grading plan with our original proposal, the one that's here on the easel.
Right.
And what you'll find, actually, is that when we were coming in off the wastewater treatment plant right here, there is about a 5 or 6 foot cut that initially happens, and we end up at grade when we get back up here. On this plan, believe it or not, the elevations, and you can see this when you go out, if you sit in that driveway of the town hall and you look straight across, that rise is not there. So this actually comes in very much at grade and with much less cut than this would over here.
Okay. So both of your alternatives have your own ingress and egress. Got that. There's the recreation change, which you flip on alternative 2. There's the force move.
Force main, correct.
And the force main, and then...
The emergency access is the other thing I did not point out. I believe it was Jason who asked us to connect toward the rear of the development so that emergency access could come back through. And again, what we're not sure of is what's going to happen with the balance of the Cannon property, and you know, ultimately that emergency access as well as the primary access is going to interplay with that, with connectivity between the parcels.
Okay.
So let me just open it up. Any comments from the board? And I apologize for cutting off.
That's fine. The question I had, I wasn't meaning senior housing dedicated, because I know your apartments are rentable to seniors with the affordable housing. It all comes out nicely. I wasn't saying get rid of the townhouses, in case somebody misunderstood that. I was just wondering, it seems to me, for example, if you take those 2 units at the back and folded them out to allow access back there, you could put more units on. I'm just curious, are we limited? You can't?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm curious. I would like to see this, it's a good thing. I would like to see this as large as possible.
Yeah, in terms of opening this up further,
Yeah.
I want to make a couple points. Number one, Ken pointed out, you whispered in my ear right before you asked your question, we're showing the full complement of parking here, which the code requires 2 parking spaces per unit. As the board will recall from our last proposal, we don't believe we need that kind of parking, and we will make that case again. As the county points out, they're suggesting more of a ratio of 1.5. If you apply those numbers, we can reduce by 44 parking spaces and land bank them, which your code does permit us to do. And if we did that, we would do them in key areas that would allow us to open up more green space and more space around. So I just wanted to make that point. Relative to your question, there is a way that we can open this up further, and we could even provide additional space for buildings, and that is to move the property line to the north. Again, what we're trying to work within is a concept of usable area that we thought we needed, that was agreed upon within the stipulation of agreement. And that property line, to my understanding, can vary a bit, but I believe the town's desire is to keep that property line, you know, I'm not going to say tight, but relatively to the south, such that we're not eating up the potential to the north. You know, that's the idea there. And as Ken pointed out, you know, what happens with these projects, and I've worked on at least a half a dozen with Ken, and as he pointed out, they have environmental constraints on them. And you look at a development and you're focusing on what's being developed, which might be as small as a 3.5 acre area, which seems like it may be somewhat packed in. But when you get out there and you realize that this is on a 20 acre parcel, this is a 20-acre parcel that Ken is purchasing from the town, which is adjoined by, I think, a 3.5 or 5 acre parcel with the wastewater treatment plant. And what you end up with is a nice, tight little community in the middle of a lot of undeveloped land. And it really does have a nice feel. And as he pointed out, other of his projects are like that.
Okay.
So
you could get more housing in, but you believe you choose not to. I'm sorry.
I think it's 2 things. I think, Jeff, did we say due to the environmental constraints? I think it's difficult. For this application, 89 units is, I have maximums that I can ask for under my funding. So it has to work. When you start getting above certain numbers, the funding sources don't work. Okay.
Thank you.
But I would love to do more senior housing.
Okay. So why don't we stop for a second and get an update on this, unless you...
If we could, I just want to follow up on what Jeff said about the parking. I read the county's letter, got it late this afternoon, and what jumped out at me was the parking issue. If we not even go down to 1.5, we do have 89 units, but we do have the special needs population of the developmentally disabled on 22 units. Now, our partners are not here with us tonight, but what they have said, some of their clients will drive and some won't. But clearly, I don't think for those 22 units, I think we could look for some relief there. And I think if we find some relief in the parking, then we'll let Jeff do his magic, open up that green space in the middle, which I think will allow for a better development, make the county happy, and everybody. Okay.
Your parking lot ratio on your other projects, what is it average?
It's about 1 to 1.
It is 1 to 1?
Yeah, it is.
And do you get complaints from your tenants?
Well, I get complaints from the
Well,
town, so
yes,
if it's cold now,
I meant specifically for the amount of parking available.
I-
More than,
where we'll have one thing I never do, I think I stated this, I never do the assigned parking. I had a lot of problems when I did assigned parking.
Yes.
Then it got to be the Hatfields and McCoys
Sure.
who was parking in whose spot. But since we got away from that, for the most part, we're okay. What we will do is after the property stabilizes, we'll try to take a section of the parking lot that is not used that much and set that up just for visitor parking, because that's really where you get into trouble, where somebody comes on a weekend and they come to visit someone and somebody ran out to the store and this is their unofficial spot and somebody's there, but if you set up a designated visitor spot, it seems to go better. But I think
one-to-one is based on...
in this instance, I think the townhomes, some of the townhomes may be prudent to set aside 2 for, but clearly I think 1.5 across the board as opposed to 2, I think is more than enough, including the visitor parking.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thanks.
So why don't we pull the professionals, I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
That's okay, I had one more question.
Sure.
And I don't even know how to pose it, but I'm going to
Go
try
ahead.
my best, and I hope I don't step on anybody's toes too much. The town of East Fishkill, I believe our workforce housing law is 80% of median income to 120% of median income. Dutchess County defines 80% of median income as market housing. I know when you originally proposed this, you were talking about 60% of median income and even lower. Does your, you could just say, I don't want to answer this, and that would be perfectly acceptable. Does your funding through the credits work with that high a median income as specified by the town?
80% or 60?
80 to 120.
80 to 120 is the private set-aside in subdivisions. In workforce housing,
Okay.
it's 60.
So with this case, it would be 60%?
This qualifies under, there was no change to that. That's the same standard.
Okay,
that
then
was
I misunderstood something and I was...
But I want to clarify something. When we laid this out, what we did, say, what I call the family units, the townhomes, the 2 and 3 bedrooms, I kept all of those at 60%, and then we had the 4 that are above 60%. They're non-regulated. They can go up to whatever. But having the townhomes at 60% of median income, again, allows for a very manageable development. The lower rents, or the lower incomes, the 22 units that are set aside for the developmentally disabled, are set aside at their income, which is, most of them are just on Social Security living alone rate. So our 2 bedrooms and our 3 bedrooms are at the highest of 60%. And that's, at times, that's difficult to achieve in our business, but we work with the formula, and I think it's a winning formula.
Okay.
For 60%?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Why don't we start with Brendan, why don't you advise us on where we are with traffic?
All right, since we spoke last time, I think, last time I'll just reiterate that we did preliminary look at traffic, the generation from this site, and the traffic that's out there on 376, and, accommodating this size of development with a driveway connection to 376 is not problematic. It'll actually function pretty well. Based on our discussion last time, we did go out and look at traffic at the town hall and look at some potential other feasible locations for a driveway access other than opposite the firehouse and the sewer treatment plant. Our analysis and what we kind of determined is that the access into the town hall has some operational issues. Not really a capacity issue. I mean, you could put a driveway opposite and it wouldn't have a real detrimental impact on the level of service, but it already has some operational and safety issues. So putting a driveway opposite, it's not a perfect scenario. So with that in mind, we are continuing to sort of looking at a more comprehensive solution to the access to the site, to this site, to the remaining area of the Cannon property, and even to improve the access to the town hall.
I'm sorry, when you say opposite, that's, I mean,
Well-
right now, are you saying opposite where the firehouse is? Opposite where?
We're talking about this configuration right here.
Pardon?
That's the driveway closest to the firehouse.
That's this
The
driveway.
building
Right,
is
but
the
what I'm
firehouse.
saying is,
Stand up.
okay,
Well,
But-
well, go ahead.
but-
I'm not sure I understand your question.
every single one of these would, I mean, the other one has the firehouse, right?
Right.
Which is, yes or no, I mean, it's equally, I mean, all.
Yeah, I think there were a couple issues. I mean, I think the applicant had some issues with actually the entrance into the, being the entrance into the wastewater treatment plant.
Right.
In terms of being opposite the firehouse, I mean, there's certainly going to be some emergency traffic generated from the firehouse. So, it's not ideal, but it's not, it's not the be-all to end-all either. It's just that, looking at the other sites, if we look at locating it opposite the southern, the southern driveway of the town hall, there's issues there too. So it just doesn't fall out to be a no-brainer. We say, oh yeah, that's the better spot for it, let's put it there. It doesn't fall into that category. So we're sort of, along with the applicant, we're going to continue to look at, a more comprehensive solution to the access into the site, and whether it be a combination of something they might be able to do in the interim and something that could come forward as the rest of the Cannon property is developed, or some improvements are made to the town hall access. The other thing that came up is pedestrian access. I think that was echoed in the Dutchess County review also, that they certainly want to see a pedestrian connection out to 376.
That's what I thought too.
And even as, I think last time at the last meeting, Lori and I think Jason also, everyone, looking to try to get the pedestrian access as far to the north as possible, and, even up into the vicinity of where the library is, because it makes practical sense.
Okay.
So, we sort of just started that process of trying to, look at a more comprehensive solution, so that's where we are.
Okay, great, thank you. Michelle, the EAF.
The EAF. Currently, we're still working on Part 3. Part of what we need ultimately is a layout so that we can calculate the actual disturbance and wetland impacts and incorporate that into the Part 3. Part 1 has been completed, the EAF has been circulated, and we're still waiting on responses from, we send out National Heritage letters and other correspondence, and we're still waiting on responses from those from DEC and other agencies.
Beautiful.
And we'll update you as I get them.
Thank you. Thank you for sending in both a soft copy and questions on the EAF from any of the board members. Okay, anything else?
The layouts that are proposed are really for the planning board's review, just relative to layout. I mean, there's no additional technical information, there's no water, sewer, drainage shown. The only thing I will reiterate in your consideration of these is what Jeff has already mentioned, is that while these alternatives spread out and provide more green area in the center, they spread out closer to the wetland areas. So, it's kind of a give and take situation. Both the original plan and I would contemplate these plans will have some adjacent area disturbance regardless for stormwater features and the like. As Jeff mentioned, one of these would also include some utility disturbance. But basically, our original comment letter pertains pretty much to all three alternatives. You're at the very beginning process of the technical development of the plan, so this is really, the board really just needs to look at this from how it wants this layout to be, and the technical issues I think will follow.
Okay, thank you.
I have nothing to add to that, no.
Tom? Okay, any other comments from the board? Let's talk about some things we did not talk about.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Jeff, what are you going to do for screening for the treatment plant?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
What do you do for screening for the treatment plant?
Well, right now, if you take a look at the easel, one of the things we talked about is trying to maintain as much of this natural vegetation as we can. Right now, the treatment plant does include a driveway which circles it, and just north of that driveway is a row of evergreens. We had originally shown our play field back in here, and I think I pointed out at the last meeting that after we had developed that and looked closer into the existing vegetation, it was our desire to maintain as much of that as possible. So when we would be relocating that back up into one of these already disturbed areas in an effort to maintain as much as that. We'll also be enhancing that with some screening in terms of evergreen planting once we develop some more details.
Are you higher than the commercial?
We are just very slightly higher on this end right here, and then we start to get about at the same elevation right through here. This site basically comes up from 376 to a high point about here, and then is very flat but gradual to the rear, it drains to the rear.
Okay. Anything else, Jason? No, good. Okay, let's just touch on, one, we don't need to do anything more with lead agency tonight, correct? We covered traffic, the alternate access, the alternate layouts, thank you. Some of the topics we have not talked about, nor will we, I don't think, are the excavation and fill permits. These are things that were raised at the last meeting, but I really don't think they're germane to where we are tonight. Sprinklers, moving the internal rec area, I think you covered that as part of, and then the easement for the pond. I don't, you know, those could be for later discussions.
We agree.
At this point, then, I mean, I think, are there any other comments or any other items of business that we need to do on this tonight?
Tom? You, Tom?
Any of our professionals, if there were.
Yeah, I mean, as not one of your professionals, but his professional, I got one. You know, one of the things we were looking for actually is a little bit just a feedback on the layouts, because as Larry correctly pointed out, you know, we haven't developed any other detail. We've put that on hold until we got some feedback from the board. What we would like tonight is some input from the board relative to this alternative one. We truly believe this is the best of the three at this point.
Okay, you know, here's the thing. I'll start one, and I'll let the other board speak, is, again, I think you're kind of marrying us to that, your separate ingress and egress. And I think Brendan is not really ready to go there yet, right?
I agree that, and what I'm suggesting is not definitively agreeing on anything relative to the front and how we're going to get in at this point, but more to the rear in terms of our layout. You know, we've got a lot of work to do back here, and whether we connect from this point here, or from this point here, or from this point even further to the north, is something we can work out. The grades work on all three. We've looked at that. That's not an issue. But if we can get some concurrence that this layout internally is one that achieves both the planning board and the county's goals, we could then start to develop our detail within that while we work with Brendan on looking at the different alternatives. We've already met with Brendan to talk about them.
And I have no problem saying I agree with that statement. Other board members? Feedback? One. Okay. You like one better?
I like one better.
John?
If the force main wasn't an issue, based on your past projects, and this, again, we're going to work with you, and you're going to work with us, realistically, aesthetically, and layout-wise, which one would you prefer, assuming the force main wasn't there?
Yeah, if the force main wasn't there, we probably would still be looking at one because of the wetland issues, and I think Larry was the one who correctly pointed out, you know, as we broaden our development in the back of the property, I call this the back area right here, we start getting into that buffer. And the DEC is a little less tolerant of us going in there unless we absolutely would have to for some reason. And as Larry pointed out, stormwater-wise, we do have to go there because that's where we drain to. You know, we all drain to that back area. So I do think from a bigger picture, this is the better one, regardless of the force main.
Okay, good, thank you.
I just want to add, Jeff, if we can assume or make an assumption that if we're going to cut down on the parking, we would probably cut down on the parking, probably in the area, as Jeff mentioned, where it wants to be, where it's very thin between the two, closer to the two larger buildings, the multifamily buildings. So if we made that assumption and we kept this layout, assuming that we open up that green area in the middle, I think we're getting there. That's where we would open that up, correct?
Other comments?
Yeah, because I think, alternative one, I think, looks good in that it maximizes the use of the land. You've got things set back as much as possible without encroaching on the areas, which provides you as much green space as possible within the middle. I like the idea that you could potentially land bank some parking spots to give yourself more green space. So I think that's a positive if we can do that. But yet gives us the future potential if you need them for some reason. So I see a lot of positives here.
Spaces doesn't show.
So Jeff, on Plan 1, the rec field is going to be behind this building, right?
Yeah, we have it right here on Plan 1. And as you'll see, Jason, if you look down here, that area is right tucked in this corner where there's a little bit of vegetation. That's not even reflective of current conditions, but that area's already been cleared.
So if you're going to cut down, if you're going to land bank some parking, where's it going to be?
Well, as Ken said...
I'm all for the land banking.
Pardon me?
I'm all for the land banking. I'm just wondering where...
Yeah, just for instance, if we use the 1.5, as I said, that would be 44 spaces. And what we've done is we've provided 2 per unit, and we've tried to distribute them in a way that would work. So if we took, some out of here, for instance, there's about a bank of 9, I think, there. That would, as you could see, that would give a nice even width across that area of the green space. As Ken pointed out, we have a pinch point in the green space down here. If we could lose some of those. Again, we would look at a balance of how Ken sees the demand on the parking. The townhomes will have a slightly higher demand than, say, the 22 units where the disabled population will reside. So, we'll take all that into account, but in doing it, also maybe make some slight shifts to get a better consistent green space through here.
Any other feedback?
Are you going to need more handicap spots in front of the 2 buildings for voters?
Yeah, that's a good question. Where the disabled population is, we probably should give consideration to maybe bumping them up. Right now, we have the state minimum, we exceed the state minimum standard, but probably just by a few, and it may be to our advantage. We'll talk to Abilities first about that to see how the demand works. Yeah.
Good catch, Jason. Anything else? Okay, gentlemen, I think that's it. I think we just adjourn the discussion to the next meeting.
Yeah, our goal, just to let you know, again, we've met with Brendan initially to discuss the entrances. We totally realize we have to finalize that in order to bring the pieces together. So we're going to be working directly with him, if it's okay with the board, in the very short term to try to come up with the best solution we can. Our goal would be to be back here in time to maybe start some of the seeker discussions, and I'm looking at Michelle. I'm not sure how soon that would be.
Well, as soon as we can get some finalize some of the details so we know what the wetland impacts are and all of that kind of stuff, we'll, it's pretty much in a draft form, except for there's holes in places that we're not sure about information. So I think within the next month, certainly, we finish part 3.
Do you want to go on the, the March 3rd agenda was kind of dangling in the wind. Do you want to try to?
Yeah, March 3rd is probably.
That's too soon.
Well, how about the second March one?
The only problem is the next meeting, I believe, is the High Holy Day, the 17th?
Yes, you're absolutely correct.
Not being Irish. Not being Irish, it's not.
Just saying.
No, I'm okay. Those days are behind me. I'm fine on the 17th.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I don't know about the rest of the board, but we'll be here. The Carnies will be here.
Okay, then we will see you on St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen. Now, before we adjourn, guys, I'm sorry, Jeff, do you want to?
No, we just want to thank you.
Thank you. Chuck, you came back. Is there something?
I did actually have one more question I forgot. Before the meeting, there was mention of setting a public hearing.
Yes. Do you want to set one for 60 days out? I just saw all the stuff and I thought it's a stretch. I mean, I'm willing to do it if you really want to try to go for 60 days. What do you think?
We haven't even circulated yet.
Good night.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night. Do I have a motion to schedule Stewart's for a public hearing, the second meeting in...
Well, I mean, even the first meeting of May, I mean, first meeting in May would be fine with me. I just
First meeting in
left with that hanging over me.
Well, we have enough time.
You're saying May or April?
May.
May. First meeting in May.
No,
I'm okay
Michelle.
with that. I mean, if
You okay,
guys-
Michelle?
Yeah, I mean, we just haven't circulated
Oh.
anything yet, so we haven't, but I don't.
Okay.
It's
First
a
meeting
risk.
in May.
And also, I mean, well,
All right.
you had people here that were in the audience and you're setting a date and they're not here any longer.
I don't think, were there anybody here for that?
Yeah, there were a couple.
Yeah, there were.
Okay.
And they have
Well,
to, yeah.
they're going to be noticed. I mean, we're not saying
I-
next meeting.
yeah, I mean, I'm not so sure that's prudent. I think maybe you might wait.
I'm
What
okay
do you
with
guys-
waiting.
I'm okay with waiting.
Are you okay with, you can
No,
still
well,
probably get
60
on.
days would still be the 1st of May, probably.
Right.
So
That's what
we
I'm
could
saying. I
probably
don't
still
think there's any
meet
reason to do it
your
now.
request. If
I guess that's my question is just from a timing perspective, if we receive, let's say the stars align in the April zoning board meeting, we received the variance that we do need, would it then have to come back to the planning board to set the public hearing?
I believe it would, yes. So-
You can't actually receive a variance until the project's approved. I mean, they'll tell, like, they can't.
Well, that's going to be concurrent problem. I mean, there's part of you that might say there were residents here, they didn't see it get set, but on the other hand, if it comes back on an agenda in 30 days, they're not going to be given any notice until there's a public hearing. So I don't think it really impacts the public too much. If you go out to a
just a
May
discussion,
meeting,
so-
should be enough. You've done it before on other
Right.
projects, so it's just up to you.
I'm game. Do I have a motion to set the public hearing on the first meeting in
Of course,
May?
the applicant knows it's subject to the
So
circulation.
No, again, I understand that, it's just that leaving, that was the only thing I was unsure of.
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
What
Bob
date
is
was that?
opposed. Okay,
May 5th.
Thank you.
thank you. You have your work cut out for you. Okay, the last item that we have to talk about real quick is the May 3rd, the March 3rd meeting. We have the
Nothing on
peddler's
here?
permit and Hunter's Ridge. We can't do the peddler's permit tonight, can we?
No.
We have the paperwork, we haven't reviewed it. But, okay, then, keep or cancel? What's your preference, John?
You won't have anything to,
Yeah, I think keep it. If we got business before us.
Keep or cancel the March 3rd meeting?
Aren't two things already
We got two
scheduled?
things, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
they'll
so
be
they're
on the
not
next-
scheduled.
So they're not scheduled, so then we can cancel that, yes.
Cancel, we have two
Cancel.
keeps, one cancel?
Cancel.
Cancel? Okay, then I have a motion to cancel.
Is anything time sensitive with those two? Not really, right?
no.
I just want to make sure the peddler's permit, he's got time before the season starts? Okay.
So
All
I
right,
guess we're going
I'll
to move it
change.
to that holiday that affects, what month is it again? I
High
forgot.
holy day.
You better.
Okay,
you should-
do I have a motion to adjourn? Oh, okay,
There was, no, who did? She wants to know who. You did. I didn't. He did, I second. Yes.
It may snow on the 17th. Snows every.
you said, why don't we cancel it?
Right.
That was
Right.
I don't think we had a
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. All right.
I don't think that counts.